So where we are here, this is the end of the Western Wall. Right? It ends right here, and some of you, I heard some people noticing that they talked about dressed bedrock. Right? The northern end of the Western Wall is actually not hewn stone. Remember, the Herod he cut out like a large chunk of the mountain, right, on the northwest corner, where the Antonia Fortress is also. Right? And so, as the road is sort of coming up this way, it's going to eventually hit the bedrock. And instead of carving out the stone and then putting hewn stone in there, they just dress the bedrock, right, to such a degree that it looks like it's a hewn stone, that it was brought as opposed to just chiseled away and made to look as if it's just a simple continuation, right, to the large stone blocks that make up the Western Wall. Right, and here you can see that they're actually continuing with this sort of slice out of the rock. And we're going to see more rocks that have stones that were not finished being quarried. They're in the process of quarrying, and they stop. Now it's unclear exactly why it stops looking like this. There are two theories. One is that Herod dies, and when Herod dies, the building projects stop. Although this, right, or at least it stopped initially here. Right, the other option, which I actually, for whatever reason, like more, right? Maybe this is when the war breaks out in the year 66, right? The war breaks out, right? There's no more building projects, no more government paying, right, for the work, and so they just leave their tools, and they found tools here by the side. And by the way, what you're standing on is the street. This pavement is the actual Second Temple, first century period street of Jerusalem. Right, so if Jesus was walking along the length of the Western Wall, right, he would have walked on these stones. Right, now as this street heads straight into this wall over here, right, this is the world's very first Wall Street. You don't like my dad jokes?
That's great.
Here we see secondary use, these columns, right, that were going to be used maybe for a store. It's unclear exactly what they were being used for, right? But we see this little nub here, nubbin, right? Anybody want to guess what this nubbin was for? Let me get back over here. Climbing. Not climbing. If you stick your hand back here, you'll find a matching nub. And what this nub was for a rope, right? You lift it up, right, on the sides, and then you place it. Right, and if this had been finished and it wasn't, they would have shaved off this nub and it would have been a nice smooth part, right? But this is how, right, and you can notice how there is a break right here, right? Here you have like little thing where you stick one on top of another, right? So when you lift it up, you need some sort of leverage, and so this is what this is giving you, right? But for whatever reason, they don't finish properly, right? They just leave the nub right here. Show you some of the ways that they moved these large stones. Now to remember, for the temple itself, no stone that was used in the making of the temple can be chiseled with metal. Right? So they had to use wood in order to get the stones out. And the way that you would do it with wood is you have like a spike, like a wooden spike, and you nail it down, right, into the bedrock, and you have like maybe two stakes, and then you pour water on the wooden stake. Now what happens in the nighttime when things get cold? The water is going to freeze inside the wood, and therefore it's going to make the wood expand, and it's going to separate the rock from the bedrock. And then using like 2x4s, something like this, right, and leverage, and you dislodge it, right, from its bedrock. Right, these are only for the stones for the temple, right? If the Western Wall tunnel, like the Western Wall, didn't need that didn't need that, right? You could use iron tools for the Western Wall stones, just not the temple stones.
These are stones they didn't pick out.
These are stones they did not pick out. Yeah. All right, so we're going to continue walking along. All right, we're leaving the Western Wall. We're going to enter into a natural fissure in the land, sort of like a little, very small canyon that was used as an aqueduct and a water reservoir during the time of the Hasmoneans, and then renewed during the time of King Herod. All right, and then we're going to end the tour in a pool, right, that Herod cut right next to the Antonia fortress. Right, we mentioned it yesterday, but I'll talk about it when we get there. All right. So guys, where we are, this was a rock-cut pool that King Herod built just outside and adjacent to the Antonia fortress. Right, this is the location where the Romans finally break into the Temple Mount by the way of the Antonia fortress. That, of course, is where tradition says Pontius Pilate had the trial of Jesus. That's where we were yesterday. Right, the Hadrian, right, the Roman emperor who rebuilds Jerusalem as a Roman pagan city, he covers this pool, right, with this vault, right, and lays a marketplace above, and that's where we were yesterday, right, the Lithos, right, using the same stones of the Antonia fortress for his new marketplace that is over this large pool. Now, this pool was discovered by Charles Warren when he is just kind of digging through the city, just sort of finding holes and, going in, not really getting permission, not really sure if it's safe. He just goes in to the holes in the ground, pops up somewhere else, and finds amazing discoveries. And so when he's, crawling through the dirt of the old city of Jerusalem, right, he finds this pool. Right, and it's much larger, by the way. Right, this wall was made because of Charles Warren. Right, he gets here and he wants to go from one end of the pool to the other, and he goes and he gets like a wooden door, right, to float on as like a makeshift boat. Right, and he's sort of like paddling in the waters. Right, now this pool, as I mentioned, right, where we were yesterday, the Lithos is a convent, the convent of the Sisters of Zion, right, and this is connected to their convent. And so he's here in the dark, right, riding on the water on this door, right, and he's getting towards the other end, and there are steps coming down from the convent, right, to the nun coming to get water. Now, if you can imagine the shock, right, that this, probably little old lady nun, right, coming in to get water in the dark, right, and there is a man, right, on a door, floating around. She screams, runs back up and tells the sisters, and they don't want that happening again. So they walled up the pool, right, block it, so make sure that no Charles Warren can come in, right, through the back way of the convent. This water, by the way, gets in here. It's rainwater and leaky water from pipes above.